What's up, everybody? We are back. John Della Rose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, with the Silver Surfer Omnibus #1. Now, there are two different Silver Surfer Omnibus out there, and the other one is Dan Slott and Mike Allred's modern version of it, and this is the only one that's out that is of the classic era. Now, Silver Surfer's had its starts and stops. So if you look at the Epic collections, they actually go through Silver Surfer's origins in the Fantastic Four and appearances in various volumes as their first volume. And this will comprise the material of Volume 2 once the Epic collections do come out, which is a run that was done by Stan Lee and John Buscema in the 70s. After that, there was a graphic novel that was done by Lee and Kirby. That graphic novel, there's some weird rights issues to it, and it's been reprinted in the 90s, but not since then. So if you find that on eBay, I would definitely snatch that up. Not likely to be reprinted anywhere else also. And then, of course, then that gets into the 80s Silver Surfer, which gets into the third Epic Collection, Volume 3. All right, so that's a little bit of the history of the Silver Surfer right there. Maybe I'll do a video showing all the collected editions of Silver Surfer available so far, so you can follow his adventures. But this is it. This is the first volume. This is a reprint. This was originally printed back in 2012. And as you see, it's just got the title Silver Surfer on the inside. No fancy art like a lot of the newer omnibuses do. But it went out of print, and it was fetching hundreds and hundreds of dollars on eBay and other sites, and it was reprinted, but they didn't reprint enough. This sold out very quickly in comic shops. I should note all the inkers in here, especially Joe Sinnott. Joe Sinnott just passed away a couple days ago. Very sad. He's got a very distinctive inking style, and you'll see that throughout here as it changes from Joe to John's brother Sal actually inking him in issues 4 through 7, then it goes through. Now, Buscema does all of the art in here, except for Jack Kirby does the last issue, and then an annual that takes place after this, and then Marie Severin does. There's like a parody Silver Surfer thing they throw in here. I would imagine that parody probably will not end up in the Epic collection. They'll probably cut that. They might actually even cut the Fantastic Four annual out of it also. And I'm going to turn back there first because, incidentally, the way that this was set up is that this right here is actually before the series of the Silver Surfer actually started. So if you want to read in chronological order, this comes first, this story right here. This is a 1967 story, and I believe Silver Surfer came out in 72, if I'm right. I'm sorry, it comes out in 68. So this was the first story preceding the rest, and it has this character Quasimodo, who, you know, is like the Hunchback of Notre Dame sort of situation. Really cool Kirby art right here, as you can tell. Very unique, interesting stuff, like you always get from Kirby. And that's worth reading first. There is a parody at the end. I don't like these Not Brand X stories, which is the Not Brand X is their deal. And they're parodies where they make fun of Marvel characters with Marvel actually making fun of the Marvel characters. So it's pretty interesting. From that level, Stan Lee does it. But this one's the Simple Surfer, and they kind of make fun of that there. I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. Might be yours. But there's also a bunch of Stan Lee essays on the Silver Surfer in here. And one thing, and here's some reprint covers at the back end before we get into the actual material. But there's one thing that's clear in this, that Stan Lee really loves and has a connection to this character more than almost any others. He actually talks about how he didn't even want anybody else to write these, and he was upset kind of when they relaunched it and had another writer writing the character. He was and hoped that the Silver Surfer would be the only character in the Marvel Universe where he would be the only person who wrote it. And it starts out with the Silver Surfer deal. This is very, very standard John Buscema art, and I love it. This is some of my favorite art out there. This is a great style. Oh, super action-packed. You see Joe Sinnott's very thick lines around the characters, which kind of gives it that distinctiveness right here. You get into the Sal Buscema inked issue. We're still in Sinnott. Come on. Sal Buscema inked issues, you see that the character lines actually are a little bit thinner, a little more detailed, a little more defined, where Sinat's got this, like, sort of, like, grand, you know, just thicker, bigger look to it. That makes everything look a little more epic, I think. That's cool. So we recount the origin with Galactus and all that in the first issue, and how he left his Shalabal and came to Earth, and then he's kind of just moping around Earth these first couple issues. And this is a rough start writing-wise, and I think it's a very interesting way to do the character. The character, like, really hates being on Earth. He mopes. Everybody kind of misunderstands him, and he just kind of throws a fit by himself. Very weird stuff. And it works. I can't say it doesn't work, but it's a very odd thing. It's a very non-heroic way of looking at things. But at the same time, the Silver Surfer is so heroic in all of this. He will do what he believes is right via his code of honor, no matter what. And so he's got this girl who he saves, who, and Buscema draws beautiful, beautiful women. Not as well as Romita Sr. did, but definitely up there. Saves this woman, and we see some of his cosmic energies saving her. Got these weird lizard aliens coming after him. And most of these stories are one-offs that really don't play a lot into the Marvel Universe, except for the Mephisto stuff. And this is where you'll see this. This is Buscema's, wow, look at that art. It's unbelievable. Mephisto looks like a really scary dude here. And Mephisto comes and kind of threatens his soul. He kidnaps Shala Bal and brings her into his weird domain. And, oh, I should also note that these early issues are not 20-page issues like you normally get with Marvel Comics. They wanted to experiment and do something and make grander epics. So each one of these stories has a much more complex vision to it than a lot of these comics back in the day. They're almost the early prototype graphic novels in some way, because they are 40 pages apiece, like 40 full pages for a character here. And you see the heavy inking of Joe Sinnott also through this page. Also. And he does the tempting of the Silver Surfer, saying, "You must work for me, and I will steal your soul," and that's the end of that. And what's also cool about this omnibus is the letters pages are all in here. It's very fun to read the letters of people writing back in the day on this. Another beautiful cover. So Buscema also drew Thor for a while, right after Kirby left, and this is some nice iconic art right there. But basically, Loki uses the Silver Surfer to try to get to Thor, and the Silver Surfer actually goes to Asgard. Very interesting stuff. This is a nice piece. And it goes through, and eventually figures it out, you know, of course. More letters, and we get the Stranger. Now, the Stranger is a character that appeared in early X-Men, and so this is another connection to the Marvel Universe. The first couple issues were a little disconnected, and Mephisto was really cool. And then Thor, of course, was just kind of a guest star appearance. The Stranger's kind of an odd one, because that was not a big popular X-Men thing. But he shows up, and the Silver Surfer deals with him. And this one, he actually gets a nice sidekick character named Al something, as I recall. I don't remember. It's Al something. And he's he's a black guy who's a physicist who helps out the Silver Surfer through this. And he gets caught in kind of the crossfire of all this stuff, and he actually steps up and kind of sacrifices himself in this story. Really tragic ending for the character. Really good character throughout the story. It was the only real, I would say, side character that, what do you call that? Supporting cast character that showed up in the Silver Surfer, and it just showed up for one issue, which is, I guess he got 40 pages. But he died. And actually, all the letters columns for like the next 3 issues go off on that fact. So, very, very odd. Now, this is an interesting Sal Buscema inking, and it's a little different. You can see there's a different tone quality to it. And the Silver Surfer's in space, and I think they were trying to get that like Kirby vibe a little bit here with the way that space was going on. And even Sal Buscema's inks between issues look really different. This one looks a little almost sloppily done compared to the others. And I'm a big Sal Buscema fan in general. He grows into himself for sure. But there you go. And we have Shala Bal showing up again. She shows up a lot for somebody who's on a different planet. The concept of the Silver Surfer is trapped on Earth at this point. And he can't get out of this like field that was set up for him by Galactus, and he's stuck. And so for all these aliens always come to him. Very, very interesting stuff. All right, more essays as I mentioned. He fights the heir of Frankenstein. So they have a sort of Frankenstein issue here where Silver Surfer deals with that, and they have a couple like classic character monster stories in here, and Marvel likes to play with that sort of stuff periodically. I kind of get bored by that sort of concept, I'm not going to lie. And so I move on quickly. All right. We get some more Mephisto. He comes back, and when Mephisto comes back, these are the best issues of the Silver Surfer. He comes back, and we deal with the Ghost, who is the Flying Dutchman. Again, a classic character, very bizarre, showing up, and the Flying Dutchman fights the Surfer on Mephisto's behalf. We get some beautiful, beautiful art here. Again, I think somebody else inked this one. Yeah, Dan Adkins. There you go. And again, Silver Surfer just kind of this breaks down here. So Mephisto now is getting the showdown going as they meet, and what happened was they went to a monthly schedule for normal 20 pages, and they already had the storyline broken down as a 40-pager. So they just did this. Buscema has this classic style. He loves these 4-panel pages where he packs a lot into these 4 panels, but it reads a little faster when he gets to these 4-panel sections. Something he loves to do with his layouts is those 4 panels, the grids. So now we have an alien who's bringing Shalabal to Earth because he wants to show her that the Surfer's bad, and the Surfer gets caught up in this like communist regime sort of thing where he's rescuing this beautiful gal in distress. And Shalabal's coming to Earth to see what's going on and find him, and she sees him kissing her, even though it really wasn't his initiation, and she's upset by that. And Shalabal gets in the crossfire a little bit. Surfer's upset and ends up sending her back to the planet. But this is a really nice story. This is one of the better stories in here also. This secondary gal who Surfer rescues from the sort of commies is really a cool character too, and I wish they would have kind of gone back and developed that a little more. But, you know, it seems like they just didn't know what to do with the Silver Surfer. So they have these one-offs, and then he just kind of mopes about, you know, not being a real, you know, being able to be a real hero, and everybody hates him and all that. And then he just moves on to the next thing in the next location, but it doesn't really build too much on a cast of characters. I mean, Shalabal keeps showing up, and Mephisto keeps showing up, but beyond that, I mean, there's not much, and they're not really part of the story so much. I mean, Shalabal disappears over and over again, and that's that. This is a weird one. These witches summon the Abomination, so we can fight the Abomination. And I didn't like this one that much, so I'm going to just skip over it. We get the Doomsday Man. Another newish character. Again, this one was not super memorable compared to the others. And so, the little robot thing. And then I guess they try to get you with guest stars again. So I always look for guest stars and I go, is the book not selling very well? And that's what I think. So Spider-Man shows up and has a, you know, one of those like hero confrontations where it's a mix-up, and there's a little boy trapped in this, and Spider-Man kind of realizes the Surfer. You look at the inking, how the difference now at this point. Who inked these issues? This inking is Dan Adkins again. All right, there you go. But yeah, the lines are a lot thinner, and they're really just letting the pencils through and not doing as much on the ink end to add a distinctive style to it, as either Sal Buscema or Joe Sinnott did. But yeah, there's a little misunderstanding, and the Surfer saves the kid basically, and he's just sad because everybody finds he's bad. And of course, then the Human Torch. See, we got two major guest stars in a row, and that tells me, oh my gosh, they're really trying to pull out the stops to get this to sell better. And miscommunication with the Human Torch. Torch goes, "What's wrong with you?" And Silver Surfer's fighting the army, and the Fantastic Four is actually sent to bring him back at this point. So very Hulk-ish story, if you think about it, because the Hulk stories, you know, he ends up going to New York, and then the army tries to take him down, and Fantastic Four tries to stop him. So it's a little bit of a rehash of stuff that we've seen from Stan already before this. we get another inker coming in here, Chick Stone, and it looks like he tries to emulate Joe Sinnott's style a little bit, but he's just not as good at it, not as pretty. But Mephisto's back and sends him back into another fight. And he's like, I'm going to get your soul this time, gadget. And that's that. And so he sets up a weird thing where he actually throws Shala Ball on a shield helicarrier while Nick Fury is getting involved here at this first issue. And then he says, go destroy shield. And his hopes that he'll kill Shala Ball in the process, and then he'll be so upset that his soul will be his. And I really think the inking detracts. It's really sloppy inking from this guy compared to the others. It really is not as nice of art to look at in these two issues right here. And it ends. So he finishes things off. Nick Fury's like, well, you know, there was something off there. And Mephisto decides to leave, and that's the end of that. And this is the last Buscema issue. So at this point, Jack Kirby comes back to do one more issue, and he just has the Inhumans. The Inhumans are fighting against one of the evil Inhumans. I forget his name. What's his name? I should remember all the Inhuman names at this point, but I don't. I've read too many of these comic books. This guy. Whoever this guy is. And so he's going to trick the Silver Surfer into fighting Black Bolt, is what he thinks. Lots of tricking Silver Surfer into fighting people in these issues. You see Mephisto do that all the time. You saw Loki do it against Thor, and you see now, is this Maximus? Is that his name? I think it's Maximus. There it is. Yeah, it's Maximus. All right. Tries to do it against, and you see look at this Kirby spread. Oh my gosh. Just the detail in the background and the way that the colors separate all of these cool little machinery just with blocks. I mean, like if you looked at it coloring today, modern coloring, all this stuff would have detailed shading and all that stuff like that. But all they did was just do different blocks, and look at just like this vibrant world that it makes. I love Kirby art. And you should too. All right. And so Silver Surfer gets into his typical battle, and then he gets captured, and he ends up breaking free and then fighting the bad guy. The end. And so he gets really upset at the end of it, and he's like, you know what? No more. I'm going to be the deadliest Silver Surfer ever, and I'm going to hate mankind now. And now we have a savagely sensational new Silver Surfer, but the book gets canceled, and that's the end of that. So I liked that twist. I would have liked to have seen that a little more. I'm sure that it got developed in other books like Fantastic Four or something like that. With him being more of a bad guy at that point. Sad way to see the book go out. It looked like they were trying to find a new direction after not having a ton of direction all the way through. And I liked Buscema's art. Joe Sinnott inking did better. Sal Buscema probably was second best, and then it kind of went downhill. And then, of course, Jack Kirby's return for a single issue is always nice to see. So good stuff overall. It's not great though. This is. I like the Silver Surfer as a concept. I like the struggles. I like that Stan Lee was trying to do something different with the way that his character was doing things. But it's still just like was not the most fun read out of a lot of the stuff. There wasn't anything mind blowing that happened here, and so I got to give it like a 7.5 out of 10. And I'd say I'm probably rating it high just because I like a lot of the early art. But the story really dragged and didn't do much for me in this one. All right, so I don't know. It's sold out everywhere. Let me know if you love this stuff. If you do, if you like it more than me, that's cool. You're welcome to have your own opinions, and I'd be interested in hearing them. So check it out. Hit that like and subscribe button, everybody, and I will be back next time with another review.